Okay, welcome. And the public are in outrage today of what we've been told throughout a lot of the media about our personal medical records. Yes, something that we all, I think, are quite concerned by whenever it comes to our personal data, our personal medical records. We want to make sure this is well looked after. Well, wait until we get into today's story. And we're not just going to talk about that, we'll talk about a couple of other UK stories, and we've got to touch on the US election as well. So let's get straight to it here then. Wes Streeting, he's the new health secretary, by the way, under Labour, has unveiled his master plan for patient passports to hold all medical records. He said that everything is analog right now and it needs to go digital. People seem to be obsessed with making everything digital for some bizarre reason. So, what are they going to be doing then? He wants to take all NHS patient data and he wants to store it digitally in one place. It says on Monday. Yeah, that's not a typo. On Monday, despite fears over breaching privacy and creating a target for hackers. Now, I was reading through some of these plans here, and I was just scratching my head that there's all these questions coming in. There's always the transcript. How exactly are you going to be protecting the data? Oh, we're going to make sure it's very well protected. But how are you going to do it? Well, I remember when I was, no, stop telling us stories. Tell us how you're going to do it. Eventually, after about the fifth or sixth question, how are you going to secure this data? You start to look in. They haven't really got a plan. They're still working on the plan as to how they're going to secure the data so that it doesn't get stolen by hackers. I mean, always the same with any government and politicians. They come up with the idea, they kind of figure out the safety aspects of it a little bit later on. Bizarre. So, what are they doing then? The Health Secretary is launching a major consultation on the government's plan to transform the NHS from analog to digital over the next decade. It's going to offer patient passports containing health data that can be swiftly accessed by GPs, hospitals, and ambulance services. Yeah, it doesn't actually tell you all of the services that are going to be using it. It's not just GPs, hospitals, and ambulance. It's going to be available to a lot more than this. They obviously don't want to put that in the media article here because this is a lot of them are somewhat biased. They say it will speed up patient care, reduce repeat medical tests, and minimize medication errors. Okay, well, that's good. I'm sure we can agree that is a good thing. The digital data bill is going to standardize information across the NHS so that everything can be shared. It's all going to be in a single app. Yes, we love our apps. And he said he wants to sort of allay the patient's fears over Big Brother oversight of private records, saying they would be protected and anonymized, even though they don't know how they're going to do it. They're also going to be working with, here we go, we should have known, big tech and pharma companies to develop new treatments, saying he would get the best possible deal for the NHS. No, he's not going to get the best possible deal for the NHS. He's a politician, um, quite a young politician as well, very little work experience in the real world. So it just makes me laugh that, they always say, we're going to get the absolute best deal. Do you know that the whole PPE business, there's still a scandal? It hasn't really been in the media. It was about 1.5 billion, I don't know if it was pounds or dollars, worth of PPE that is sat abandoned. I think it's in the New Forest or somewhere like that. Because the government sold it to a third party, they sold it to someone else. It's just sat there, rotting away. Just so much PPE that you wouldn't believe. I don't even know how many hundreds of shipping containers it took to, bring all this stuff in. Could even have been more than that. They don't get good deals. Politicians and not all government workers, some of them are okay, but they're not there to get the best deal. If that was their own money that they were dealing with, you better believe they're going to get the best deal. They're going to negotiate over the last penny. But when it's just public funds, they don't really care. And why are they involving big tech and big pharma? That's the other question you've got to ask yourself. Why would they be strategic partners? I think it's obvious. It's not to make new treatments and bring costs down. It's because they're going to have access to that data, our private medical data, and there'll be payments going from who knows, actually, who knows where these payments will be going, because sometimes there's always these mystery dark payments that go on between politicians and some of these big tech companies and big pharma and everything else, as we found out only after all the 2020 to 2022 business, shall we say. We found out all this stuff about these dodgy deals that were going on. Back to the article. He said that this will mean the NHS can work hand in hand with life sciences, offering access to our large and diverse set of data. So, I mean, it's in black and white here. The conversation we're kicking off today will include questions like how to ensure patients' data is protected and anonymized. People are up for helping save the NHS, but understandably have concerns about Big Brother. Yeah, they've been saying this same line for the last decade, by the way, about saving the NHS. We're going to get the best deal, extra funding, cut price deals, priority access, cutting edge treatments. Yeah, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. But let's have a look at what some of the companies and other people have said. Med Confidential, then, this is a patient privacy campaign group, said that his plans would unavoidably create a vulnerable database, the contents of which could then be shared with drug companies. Of course it's going to be this. Furthermore, records could potentially be viewed by any of the NHS's 1.5 million staff, even if they're not treating the patient. Yeah, this is obviously concerning. They've got to have some sort of restrictions in place for this. Why would anyone just be able to access anyone's record? They've got to figure that out. He said that your medical notes will no longer be looked after by doctors and will be controlled by politicians. Look at this. It's unbelievable. This is in black and white. Will be controlled by politicians who will decide who they get sold to, which will inevitably be anyone who will pay for them. This was from Sam Smith, a spokesperson for the group. He added, the proposals are a gift to stalkers and creeps who misuse NHS systems to find out the most basic private details that people only tell their doctors. And the government shows no sign of taking the most basic steps to stop all of this. Your entire medical history will be readable by anyone with access, and these new mega data stores would be at ever-present risk of hacking. Yeah, I think they're kind of on the money with saying that. And talking of hacking, have you heard about this leak? I won't go into it because it's a different kind of video here, but have you heard about this leak, or what they're calling a leak, wink wink? This was above top secret documents with Israel and the US, and somehow someone leaked it to Iran. Yeah, of course, that's exactly what happened. They don't want to say that actually they were hacked. Yeah, that's what happened. Above top secret documentation, the classification it is, very, very few people would have had access to that. So for one of them to just leak it to Iran, yeah, of course they did. No, they got hacked. They don't want to say it. Let's move on to the next point then. Oh yeah, this is it. We don't need to read all about this guy, but he's the one leading it. Let's go on to the next article then, out of CNBC. This was Britain faces warnings of a tech exodus now over tax plans ahead of the high stakes budget. And a few days ago, you probably heard this outrage. The Labour Party was going to be sending 100 staff to help Harris. I didn't talk about this the other day when it came out, because I honestly thought this was, someone had just made up the news. I looked for the lady's profile who posted it. I couldn't find her anywhere. So I thought someone's just made this up. It's fake, whatever. So I didn't talk about it. But apparently it was real. I mean, you cannot believe it was real. So they were going to send them these 100 Labour Party members to swing states to, I mean, I don't even know what exactly they were going to do, but try and get voters on board for Kamala Harris. I mean, the comments on all of these threads were
Even some, I don't know if they were governors, but they were sort of, mayors or someone like that, saying that is illegal. You cannot interfere in someone else's election. If you come to our area, you will be arrested. These Labour Party people will be arrested if they come to our area. I mean, I just cannot believe some of the things going on at the moment. I was going over all the different maps then of who's going to win, because I've said from the start who I think is going to win. I was going through all of these maps here. Every single one of them is different. They're basically nonsense. You just need to ignore all of the maps because every single one of them is completely different. Some of them say, oh, Harris is going to destroy Trump, 80% of the votes. Others say Trump's going to get 80% of the votes. And then you see more accurate ones that say he's probably going to get about 60% of the votes versus 40%, but we'll see. The left-wing media, including BBC, is in meltdown at the moment over Elon as well. These $1 million a day, it's calling it like a competition. $1 million a day. This is right up until 5th of November. And all the lawyers are going crazy about this. And they're already starting to put all these cases together against Elon to try and stop him. They said he could face a potential $10,000 fine. That made me laugh. You realize he's the richest man on the earth. What's he got? 250 billion? I don't think he's worried about that. Or a 5-year prison sentence. Yeah, okay. That might be a little bit more worrying, but they're saying it's clearly illegal. Well, actually, there's a loophole as to how this is being done because he's not directly paying people. But I did think it was somewhat ironic that they're jumping on this now and they want to arrest him. I mean, Elon is... There isn't a week that goes by that they don't want to arrest him for something. They're still in the UK, believe it or not, trying to get him. They're not calling it extraditing now. They're calling it a visit, as a, what is it? A key witness visit or something they're calling it now. So they want him to come to the UK still to testify about the UK riots as a key witness, a key expert witness. That's not what's going to happen. I think the Telegram founder found that out the hard way. I don't think Elon is going to fall for it. Yeah, he's not going to be a key witness. As soon as he lands, that jet lands, he's going to be arrested. Yikes. What else then? This was an interesting article that came out today, and this is all about the baby boomers in the US. They're all coming back, not all, but a lot of them are coming back into the workplace. Rising costs are forcing baby boomers to unretire ahead of the US election. Well, actually, yeah, that's quite loose how they're using that word in there, but this has been happening for a long time. And they said it's because it's failed to deliver the benefits for ordinary voters. So job applications from 60 to 78-year-olds in the US have surged by 23% in the last year. That's according to LinkedIn. And their chief economist said the surge was driven by people being forced to unretire after high inflation and interest rates eroded their savings. And that's exactly what we talked about several years ago. I said that just watch what happens to everyone's savings here, because when you have inflation at such a high level, you think, don't just think of it as the last year before the inflation hit as well. Oh, you've got, whatever saved. Let's just say you've got $100 here, right? And you say, look, I've got this $100, and then inflation hits and it eats away at that $100. Not the actual number, but the value, what it can buy for you. Well, you've got to think some of those baby boomers earned that money 20, 30 or more years ago that they've been saving it. So inflation's eaten it away over those years as well. So this is why it's hit them so hard, which the article doesn't really go into in detail. But they've said that central banks raise rates and that increase the cost of living. Yeah, a little bit, but that's not quite accurate. I think that probably ate into their savings more than they were anticipating. Yeah, I think that part is. In the US, older workers are resuming these really aggressive job searches. They had retired and now they're unretiring. The US had by far the strongest economic recovery among the G7 nations, with GDP in the second quarter more than 10% above where it was at the end of 2019. Okay, key point here that we need to talk about, because they always talk about this massive recovery in the US. The US did not have a genuine massive recovery, right? So what actually happened was they did quantitative easing and currency creation and all sorts of other stimulus. That was money that was created. It's not even money as currency. It was created out of thin air and then dumped into the economy. What does that do? You've still got the same goods and services, but now you've got more currency chasing it. So that is where a lot of the inflation came from. It's not what they are, talking about here. So when they created all this new money, they actually double accounted for that. Any accountants watching can probably explain it in the comments as well below if you like. But what they did was they double accounted for that within GDP. So if they put in 1 trillion, it shows 2 trillion of growth. And that's really all that happened. They can do that because they're the reserve currency. It's not as if, they created all these new factories and new tech and wow, look at all these, new jobs, amazing. It was nothing to do with that. It was just currency creation. That's really all it was. However, polls have consistently shown that most Americans are not feeling the benefits. Again, that's accurate. Nearly half believed that unemployment was at a 50-year high, despite the fact that the actual rate was nearly a 50-year low. Now, this is incorrect as well. I'm just going to show you why here. So this is what you get as the unemployment rate if you go on to Google or any search engine, 4.10%. That is not the unemployment rate though. The U3 unemployment rate is what they're using here. That's U3, it's 4.1%. But that is just, it doesn't encompass everybody. What you need to use is the U6 rate, which covers discouraged, underemployed, people, with second jobs, etc., unemployed workers. That is really what you want. Now, when you look at the U6 rate across the US, this is it. It's been going up. It's not going down. Even the journalists don't understand this stuff properly. I mean, they're not economists, so they wouldn't, but they don't understand that this isn't the lowest unemployment 50-year low. It's actually quite high at the moment. So much of the economic growth in the US has been driven by his Inflation Reduction Act, IRA. And they say it here, a huge stimulus program. But what they don't understand is that that was created currency. Now, if you're going to create currency, then you may as well use it for, here we go, factories, equipment, infrastructure. Yeah, I think that's a good way. If you're gonna print the money, use it for things like that, because you double the money. You get the money initially, and then that goes to people, it goes to workers, it goes to the equipment and everything, and you actually create the factory and the infrastructure, and the value is added even more. So yeah, if you're going to do it on that. But even the economic advisor to Biden admitted that the stimulus was not yet translating into broad-based gains for ordinary people, which is accurate. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed today's live stream. Thanks so much for being online. Take care. God bless. I will see you on Wednesday. Bye for now.